Peace, y'all. You know who it is. It is your boy, the Anarkist, aka Demetrius. To my right is my boy, Invisiblekatana, aka Terrence. And to my left is my boy, Nate, aka, drumroll please,
Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic. How you doing, Mr. Fantastic?
Doing fantastic.
New name, new man, dude.
I do feel different, man.
You feel like a new man today?
Yeah, I do feel like a new man.
Feeling more Mr. Fantastic today?
Yes.
You look more Mr. Fantastic.
Well, I'm still wearing the blue Crocs, but...
Oh, still wearing the blue Crocs. They not red.
Yeah.
Yet. We'll get into that later in the show. The conspiracy hour. But no, man, what's good, y'all? You know, we back again. Episode 2. We made it to the second episode of A Few Nobodies, talking about nothing. The show we talk about absolutely nothing except for what the three guys in this room care about. So let's go.
If y'all want, we can definitely start with the paying it forward thing. That actually came up because of something you mentioned last week with your dad when y'all went to the Pepsi thing.
Yeah.
Where he hated the pop, but it was free.
Yeah.
It made me think of that, like people paying it forward. I was listening to a podcast earlier that day from like a local radio show, and the consensus is like every time it's in the news, it's because a ton of people do it. It'll be like 60 people paid it forward and stuff like that. And so I was kind of on the same level as the host, where it was like, I wouldn't continue that loop, because it's always like, are you the crappy person when you end, it's 100 people paying it forward and you're like the 101st and you're like, I'm gonna just take my free food. Are you crappy, or is that like the point? Because if you just keep paying it, then what was the point of the good deed of the person ahead of you? And like that weird sort of argument there. So I would love to know what y'all thought about that. That's
interesting that you say that, because it was recent. I don't know what restaurant I was at. I believe it was could have been a Wendy's. Where I was doing what you usually do at Wendy's. You go there, you pay, you get something from the Wendy's menu. I got a burger and some fries and some chicken nuggets, actually. And I believe the cashier asked me, would you like to donate to blah, blah, blah?
That was, yeah.
Donation I don't give a fuck about. And I was like, no, I would just like my sandwich and everything that I paid for. So, go ahead.
No, I mean, to piggyback on your point, like, that doesn't make you an asshole. I mean, that's what, like, you know, with how big everything is now and social media and all that stuff. Like, I saw a commercial the other day. It was right after the hurricane had hit Houston, and Walmart showed like some damage from some of their stores at Houston, and we're all in this together. Yeah. So for the week, they were gonna match every dollar that you donated. That's awesome, right? Yeah. Right. Well, I paused it, and I looked at the fine print. Did you see what the fine print was?
What did it say?
Okay,
like
it said
20%.
No, it said we'll match every dollar, but it's up to our discretion if we will use it according to merchandise or an actual dollar value, and it's up to $125,000. That's it. If you look up your local tax brackets for corporations and what they get tax write-offs on and stuff like that, that's kind of where it starts. So for me, like, there's nothing purer than in the moment doing something nice for somebody, right? Hoping that they return it, right? But then it's turned into this thing where you feel like you have to, or corporations are saying, look how
great we are,
but really we're not, you know, like, look, I ask our listeners, look up how much the CEO of any major foundation, so like, you know, you got your breast cancer foundations, all that stuff, look how much they make. Probably more than anybody is going to make in this room.
These quote unquote nonprofits.
Yeah, exactly.
That's always a huge thing.
And that's what's tough is, like, you know, with raising my 4 kids, like, you got to show them the darkness and to be selfish. You know, like if it's one of Zizi's toys and Lulu wants it, hey, Lulu, she doesn't want to share right now. It's fine. You know, but then I tell, hey, if you want to be able to play with her toys, then you have to show the same respect, right? You have to allow yourself to share and be nice and be kind. You know, treat people like you want to be treated. If we remember that, there is no pay it forward. It's just being a nice person. Right. It's just doing what you're supposed to do every day.
But you know, my thing about when you go into a restaurant and they ask you to give, like, what if all right, what if I just genuinely don't have it because all the time you go into a restaurant with the exact amount that you need to get whatever
$5 bill,
you know, or just even if I did have it, what if I just didn't feel like giving at that time? Like I feel like giving is something that, like you said, Nate, you do from the heart. You do it because you want to do it. And
who made that money? Me? No. Terrence didn't make that money. You did. You get to choose what you want to do with your shit, man. Mm-hmm. If you want to give that $1, fine. If you don't, fuck the people who say, oh, you're not nice. You're an asshole. No, I'm not. You don't know what I did yesterday. You don't know that I just, helped an old lady cross the street or whatever.
Right.
Like, fuck those people, man. Because in that moment, they're only seeing a glimpse of you. That's it. And you have the right to say no. You have the right to say no. You have the right to drive right by that person that's got the sign up that says, give me 25 cents.
Which I do all the time.
Yeah, man.
Most people do.
Well, dude, there's a lady on the corner over here. She's here Monday through Wednesday, Friday through Sunday. And I got pissed off at her. Yeah, I got pissed off at her, so I followed her. One day. She walked into a house, bro.
Wow.
Walked right into a house, man. No shame.
People that do that, like, there have been stories where it's like there's a dude who was oh man, this was years ago, but it was a dude that was downtown and he would always ask people for change. He'd be like, I need a little bit for the bus. And he would be in a suit because he was downtown and he's in like one of the fancy apartments down there from change. And it's like, that happens where people will fake that stuff or people, that is someone's business, is shilling. And they work in shifts. That someone will get dropped off at the corner and then swap out for the other person. It's like, all right, let me put my iPhone up. All right. And then they're there for, however many hours.
But us talking about this does not mean that we don't want to help people out. That we don't want to be kind, because it doesn't matter what you do. Welfare, getting state help, being, getting bailed out by somebody. We've all fucked up. We've all used that to disadvantage. Right? We've all used that for our own gain. We've been personal or been selfish with things that have been given to us. And we've got to remember that and say, you know what? I'm doing this because I want to. Because I want to. Because I want to be nice. And forget all that other bullshit of the one time where this guy did it or the 5% who used this wrong or whatever. Like, the system of being kind to one another works. It works. Yeah, do you get kicked around every once in a while? Yeah, but you learn from it and you move on.
That's true. And you know what? Sticking to the topic of people being fucked up and nobody giving them anything. Telltale, the company.
Telltale Games.
Telltale Games.
Okay, so to start this off, because I would assume out of the three of us, I'm definitely the gamer, for sure.
Definitely.
I wouldn't say I'm mad. Like, I haven't looked too much into it. Like, I saw it actually earlier today, and that's why I didn't use it for a topic. I didn't know too much about it. But more recently, or I shouldn't say more recently because it happened today. But like I think it was like a week or 2 weeks ago, EA shut down the company. And EA, as far as the gaming world goes, is like,
it's huge.
Just huge, and also like the BS company where they like shut companies down. The one that they recently did was Visceral, and they were closed. Like, Visceral was completely shut down. Like, what Telltale is doing, they let people go. And they have a small I never realized how small it was because they let 90 people go and that counted as 25%, which is actually a pretty big deal.
Right, 25% of the company, just 90 people. So
yeah, and I was really surprised with that. I guess because it was Telltale Games, like even though they don't make like the biggest games in the universe, their games are pretty big and they come out consistently. They're currently doing the Batman series. And so it's like, all right, I was surprised that it was even that small, that 90 was even 25% for them. So it is a big deal, but. And like I said, I don't know the whole story and stuff. And you mentioned the CEO.
Yeah, it was in the post I read, the CEO talked about how the layoffs are not based on the company going under or about to make less games or less quality games or even different games. He just said, real vague general stuff, talking about that they were just evolving with the times, whatever that means, and I thought it linked back to our conversation on social media and just, are you relevant without it and just where the world is going, but
Yeah, and see, when you say it like that, it does kind of add to sort of this weird element of what is the truth behind that, where especially when you say it's not because we're downsizing or not issues with the company, but 25% of people are gone. There's a reason for that, and it can't be 25% of the people just suck at making games. So there's something there, and like I'd have to know more of the story, but like still, even with it being Telltale, I think I'm not as mad at them right now. You know, go further into the story might change, but EA is that type of thing where they will just shut a whole thing down. And they're are you guys familiar with like microtransactions in games? All right, that's EA's like bread and butter. They're like the company that kind of does that more than anybody else. It's EA. They do like Star Wars Battlefront is online only, and there's a bunch of microtransactions. Battlefront 2 has an actual story, so people are happy about that. But it's stuff that changes so much from what it should have been anyway, because Battlefront technically 1 and 2 are like the 4th and 5th games. And it's just like, you know, there's so much stuff that was already there that was taken out, and this is EA, who has so much money. They could pretty much make any version of any game they wanted to and make it like what everyone has been hoping for. And yet that seems to not happen, because it's like, well, let's go for this, or let's push this out, and that's why things fall apart. And it's just like this weird thing where that'll happen, and then
now, you complain about this, yet when the new Battlefront comes out, are you buying it?
I'm not, but I know there are definitely going to be people without a doubt.
You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Does that lead into big companies thinking that the consumer doesn't matter?
I think it leads to a part of that, but I also think it leads to, it's like the whole internet thing in general, where it's like the angry people are the loudest, but that'll probably be the minority. I feel like that's how EA as a company kind of operates, even though it'll be all over the place where it's like, why is EA doing this and stuff? They focus on the money, because it's like, this many people did this, so let's just do that, even though it'll, you know, lose people in the long run. Because it might be like, this set of people always bought Battlefield, or this set of people always loved the Battlefront games for Star Wars, and so they stayed away from the first one. Maybe they were going towards the second one, but then you do stuff like this, and that can stop people from the future installments that you have coming along. If it's specifically from EA, you have stuff like, you know, the company that closed, which was Visceral. Like, I love their games because they did Dead Space, which is like one of my favorite franchises, because I love horror stuff. So they did Dead Space, and I was super excited. I was waiting forever. I was like, we're gonna get another Dead Space game. And that's dead. That's dead in the water. New Star Wars game is dead in the water. So it's like two of my favorite things. It's just like, that's most likely not ever gonna happen.
So it sounds like the gaming world is kind of similar to like the movie industry, where it's like the movies that do the best are going to get pushed. You know, they're going to put the money behind it. Those are going to be the big blockbusters, and all the other movies that you know, crowds of people, a niche number of people may like. You know, they won't put as much money behind it.
Well, it's funny to think that, because 5-6 years ago, everybody thought the gaming industry was going to be ran by a bunch of independent companies.
I think it still might, though. You don't think it's going that way?
Yes and no. I think how Sega re-injuvenated themselves is one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard. You know, but I don't really know. You know, because when I was gaming, it was more mid-2000s, late 2000s. That's when I was heavy into gaming. And, man, all these independent markets came out, and these games were coming out, and you're like, holy crap, this is incredible. And now it's back to...
Yeah, indie has become more commonplace, which is good.
Because it's more accessible now than ever before, so... And
then I think on the other side of that, with it being so, oddly enough, it's common to be indie, I think that's why it's like, it's not that big swell that it was before, where it's like, oh, this is a huge change. Now that change has happened, and that's where we are, where it's still a big part of it. And I recently watched this show, and it was talking about the game Hyper Light Drifter, which is like a small company. It's this guy who did a story, and like, he's dealing with like heart issues and stuff like that. And he was like, I kind of just wanted to put a part of myself into this game. And it was a small company. They were going to like the day it was supposed to come out to be like, all right, are we finished? Are all the bugs gone? And it's that sort of indie story that you have. And you can kind of have that even with bigger companies, when it's depending on the project that they're doing.
Right.
And, you know, it's still there within the industry for sure. But I feel like with it being so commonplace now, it's almost just another part of the industry. It doesn't have, like anything, literally anything that's ever been done. So, it's an impact in the beginning, and then it's commonplace, and it sort of
So what did you grow up on? Because you were born in 92.
Yeah.
So by the time you realized what games was, that was what, 99 probably? 2000?
For me, it was actually way earlier. Because my dad actually did get me a Super Nintendo. So we played games like that.
So Nintendo is what you grew up on?
Yeah, Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Like Super Nintendo was my first. So I played, you know, Super Mario World and Super Mario Kart. And my aunt had the original NES. And so whenever I was at my grandparents', because she was still younger at the time, I would play her NES. So I actually did grow up on the Nintendo and Super Nintendo. So I've been with games for as long as I can remember. Like, I have been playing them. So I have been a part of the world as it's sort of
So, all right, Invisiblekatana, man, let me ask you. You've been with games a long time. You're a huge gamer, heavy gamer. Me and Nate, not so much now, but like you said, back then I was really into games, but I think I had to make the decision to kind of, I think you got to commit to games, man. You can't be like a halfway gamer.
Yeah.
So at one point I just was like, either I'm going to do this or I'm going to have to do something else.
Yeah, like I've got a Wii because I love Nintendo. 2 months ago, I think, is the last time I sat down and played by myself without my kids or, anything like that. So, like, I know exactly what you're saying. Like, I had to make a choice. I mean, it's not, they have plenty of time to play games or anything like that. It's just, what do I want to spend my hours doing? Would I rather spend it with my kids and my wife and work and all that stuff, or would I rather just play video games and know what's going on, but have no quality of what my life entails?
Right. So, but all right, T, as a gamer, how would you? What is that progression like from when you started playing games to what they are now? And the reason I ask that is because I noticed, like, when I talk to a lot of gamers who are still my friends, one of my best friends, one of my good friends. When I hear the experience from gamers now, and it's like from an outside experience now, because I really don't play anymore. Yeah. One of the things I get from them is that they feel like, man, I hear them say a lot of things like, man, it feels so real. The game is so real. The games are getting so real now. It's like it's better. It's more interactive. Like, what's your take on that from then to now?
All right, from my experience with games going from Super Nintendo to Nintendo to current day, I wish I had a Nintendo Switch, but my only current console is the PS4 because I'm poor. So that was me because I love, like, Sony always has the exclusives, and that's another part of the culture that's changed. But as far as just the games and how they've grown and progressed visually, interactively, even just the stories that are told, it's so insanely different now than what it used to be. Because one of the best examples I can give is my favorite game for Super Nintendo, for me personally, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time.
Okay.
So that's like the popular Ninja Turtles game. Like, that's the one that was an arcade. There's like a Sega version. It's like the Hyperstone Heist. There's all this different stuff about it. It has some of my favorite video game music. And that's a simple story. It's the Ninja Turtles, which is based off a comic book, which has become like one of the biggest things. And it's more childlike than it ever was, because I know a lot of people never read the comics, but the Ninja Turtle comics are actually super freaking dark. But the game itself was based off of, like, the cartoon version, which was like old school campy Batman. Loved. So a lot of people are familiar with it because of the cartoon.
I even had the Ninja Turtles Jaws. What's up, man? What's up?
So with that game, it's a simple story. Shredder came in, like, the Turtles, April, Splinter, they're in the sewer, they're watching TV, or April's on TV. Shredder comes in, or Crane comes in the giant body, steals the Statue of Liberty, because that matters. So, and that's the whole thing. And so they go to try to fight him. Then they get sent through time. And that's like the whole game, is you go from dealing with dinosaurs, and they just throw in like famous Ninja Turtle villains. So you fight Slash, who is like a prehistoric turtle. So you fight against him. Well, that's not what he is, but that's what they do in the game. So you fight him, and then you go to like the pirate level, and that's where you fight Bebop and Rocksteady. Then you go to like a Western level, and so you just go through time, and then eventually you go to the future, and you're just fighting through these cool levels. And it's like the story is to beat Shredder, and they put the Statue of Liberty back. Like, when I go through it, it's like the story is so pointless. Like, it's time travel, but the whole point of the game was, let's get the Statue of Liberty back, and it went through time travel.
So to you, it's like it's the stories that are really engaging.
Yes, absolutely. Like,
more so than ever before?
You have. All right, so a really great example that has literally not changed, but at the same time is Mario. It is always Mario or Mario and Luigi trying to save Peach because Bowser kidnapped her again. And it was just, you go through the level on the Nintendo, then you save her at the end. Eventually you get to the right castle, she's there. Super Nintendo comes along, it's Super Mario World. You can go back and forth between the worlds, and they're far more varied, there's more powers and stuff. But it's always saving the princess. The one time it really changed was like Super Mario Galaxy 1, where he saved a different princess, and Rosalina. But it's always the same. Current Mario game, he has to save Peach again.
Yeah.
But
they make it, Nintendo, oh man, they do it so well. I mean, you know, when you were a kid and you were playing it, you're like, man, this is amazing. This is so cool. And then they made, you know, Super Mario where it was an acting, it was stage. They were acting
Yeah.
out one you've already played. Then they went to Super Mario 64, and it was a whole world, and they changed the way you did things, and it was a first-person game. And Mario had never been like that before. Then you go to Super Mario Galaxy and Odyssey and all this stuff, and then they're like, you know what would be fun? What everyone complains about? Playing together. So then they come out where, you know, all three of us can play the same level and find certain stuff with 3 people and 2 people and 4 people. And then they're like, well, you know what? People always said they could create harder levels than us. Let's do that. And then they came out with that, and Super you could play Mario the levels,
and that's a huge thing as well. And it's crazy. A big example of how games have changed. Like for me personally, I think that's a part of why I love games now, because I've gotten into wanting to write and stuff like that. I notice it so much more than I ever did. Like even when I go back to games, it's like, okay, this story is actually really well done, and that's always a big thing. Like, all right, the story is cool. It's like typically the game is cool. But a huge example of why story matters would be Naughty Dog, because they made the Uncharted franchise, and then they made the Last of Us franchise. And so the second Last of Us game is coming out hopefully next year. I would love that. But those are 2 franchises where it's like story is like the biggest thing ever for those games. Like Uncharted 2 is always considered like one of the best games pretty much ever. Like that's what people say, because it's that adventure sort of movie put into a game perfectly. Like it's the way I think it was.
So let me ask you a question. We've gotten to this point because we're all talking about story and all this stuff. Have we gotten to the point where the graphics are so freaking good that it doesn't matter anymore? That the graphics don't matter? That as long as it's a fun story to play, as long as you're intrigued by what it is. Like one of my favorite games is 13.
Okay.
I love that game. Because it was different animation and all that stuff, but the story's really cool too. And so what do you think about that?
That I would say, for me personally, it kind of depends, I guess, on what the game is. Like if I know the story ahead of time, like this is what it's about or something like that, it might change my opinion. But I know as far as if I'm just looking at it as mass appeal, I would say graphics still matter, because you will always have that thing where it's like this game looks this way, so I don't want to play it. And then you have.
But how do you explain the old retro Nintendo selling out every year for the holiday? Every year they sell out. They've done it. What is this? The second or the third year?
I would
that
say
they're doing the limited
NES
release.
Classic. Yeah. I would say this is I'm pretty sure this is the second official year of the NES Classic, because they're technically bringing it back. But yeah, that was a huge deal where like they made like 100, and then they sold out, because that's how Nintendo likes to sell stuff, where it's never enough. But that sort of thing, I think that equates more to nostalgia than it does to like the story and stuff like that, because it's just like that's when it was just this is epic to play, and then maybe you just don't have that epic game anymore because it was forever ago or it broke or something like that. But current games, I would say it depends how much into games you really are. Like for me, I love a great story game. Like I will pick up a game that is like not even that interactive, depending on how great the story is. Like I bought the Back to the Future games, because I'm a huge Back to the Future fan, and that's by Telltale Games. And so it's like playing that game.
Telltale, but the Back to the Future games?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's like basically a 4th movie. Like going through that is like going through a 4th movie, and it was like one of the first Telltale games, so it's not nearly as interactive where it's like you make this decision and it changes like 3 episodes down. It was just like there is one answer and that's pretty much it. Like you can ask different questions and get extra dialogue, but technically it's just one story and you play through it.
Like the first Fable kind of.
Yeah. It's like that. You just go through it. You can just get extra dialogue, like if you want to hear backstories. But it's such a good game, and it's like that's just fun, and it's a good puzzle game too.
Okay. Yeah, so top 5
games.
Yeah,
for me.
and you can do series too. So like you know what I mean, like.
Well, for me, number 1 has always been Resident Evil. I grew up on that. That's the reason why I think I love horror so much, is Resident Evil. And even though it's had its ups and downs, I'm not one of the fans of Resident Evil where it's like every game is perfect. I hate some Resident Evil games. Like there's Resident Evil Survivor, which is like the one everyone officially hates. I hate that game. It was like the first one they did that was a first-person shooter. And it had, I remember being so excited because my cousin had the game, and I was like, holy crap, this was after like, I think that was before Resident Evil 3 came out. So I'm like, I cannot wait to play this. And I put it in, and I was just like, I don't have to know what this is. It's a first-person Resident Evil game, and I was just like, I think I played a few minutes and I was just like, this doesn't make sense to me. It's dumb. And then I was like, no, that was
just
it.
Because they couldn't do first person, or
it was just that it wasn't what I was expecting, because it was Resident Evil. There was, and this is of course before video game commercials were like movie commercials where you can see a video game commercial all the time. So this was just the next Resident Evil. I just assumed I knew what I was in for because I'd played the first 2 full games. So I'm like, I think I know what I'm in for. And then it's like a first person perspective. It's a new character, which technically the second game was too, but it was just like, I don't understand this. Like, it was just so different from what it was. And with it being first person, it's a different feeling. Even if it's still a horror game, it's such a different feeling from like third person Resident Evil to first person Resident Evil.
5, 4.
Yes. After that, I'm always stuck on this. I always go Metal Gear Solid though. Metal Gear Solid is insane. It might take you 12 hours because the cutscenes are that long, but the games are freaking amazing and they're all really good. 3, I would have to go with Dead Space. I'm actually going from top to bottom, I guess.
Okay.
So number 1 is Resident Evil. 2, I always go Metal Gear.
Gotcha.
3, I would probably go Dead Space. I always switch Metal Gear and Dead Space because I love horror so much. Dead Space, I'm always like, I don't know where I want to put it because I've played it so much. But Dead Space is insane. Like, that is one of the best horror games I've ever played. And one of the big things is like with horror games, it's like what's better is horror when you can fight back or horror when you can't, because there's like the Outlast games and stuff where you just get scared and you can't do anything. And Dead Space is one of those games where technically you can fight back, but that game is just nuts. Like, people are just dead. Like, it's literally, you go into that first game, I think, because I bought that game late because I was like, all right, let's see what Dead Space is. I got it on sale. I played the first like 10 minutes of that game and I was like, I love this. And I literally played the whole game in one day. And then it took me like 12 hours straight and I was like, this is insane. And I still played that game like 5 more times.
Number 2. Or
so,
technically 4.
Technically 4.
What an anti-classic was.
yeah, I did it backwards for sure. And I guess that's because I never really think past the 3. Like, honestly, it's always Resident Evil, Metal Gear, Dead Space. And then after that, it's like, all right, I love Bayonetta. That's like a hack and slash. It's made by Platinum Games, who I love. They're like some of my favorite developers. They made, all right, so this goes with Resident Evil. Shinji Mikami is the guy who made Resident Evil. He left Capcom and made Platinum Games. He is responsible for Resident Evil. I believe he was responsible partly for Devil May Cry, because that was supposed to be a Resident Evil game when that first came out. And then officially he's like involved with Sega for the first one, and then Nintendo because it was weird. Okay. But Bayonetta, that is one of the best hack and slash games you could possibly play. Like, the combos in that are insane. You get it's 2 games so far. I'm hoping they still make a third one, but it's like each game has like at least 5 weapons for you to switch through, and they're all just insanely different.
Who's your sleeper?
Sleeper hit? So that's a tough one because I go through and it's like, what? It always ends up being a franchise. It's rarely ever one thing. I would probably number 5 go with the Uncharted franchise. Okay. If I do that, because I do love the stories, and those games are just freaking fun to play too.
All right, Invisiblekatana didn't name COD in his list, so he's a fucking idiot.
See, Call of Duty. See, that's what I mean. Like that.
So,
see, I was never into Call of Duty.
Yeah, but that's a huge game, so I know people gonna kill you for not saying that.
So I don't. For me, and a lot of people are going to disagree with this, especially the newer generation, but number 5 has to be Medal of Honor. Okay. The original Medal of Honor. I mean, it changed the way games were. I mean, I remember playing it and being like, oh my God, these guys are attacking back. They're jumping on grenades. I mean, you've never seen that before. You've never seen an AI like that before. So for me, Medal of Honor.
Okay.
Yeah. Once they left and made Call of Duty and EA tried to take Medal of Honor. We'll talk, but we won't talk about that.
I know. Tease, he's a gamer, man. He can talk about games all day and can't shut the fuck up. So, but as far as like what you love, Mr. Fantastic, you know, what are some things that you love? Some things that you would like, you know, maybe that you love so much you would like to pass on, like, you know, maybe
to my kids and stuff. My love for Pokemon, and it's going good. Today, I was watching Gotham, and then I was watching the new Spider-Man movie. And my kids came out and they wanted to watch it, so it's a little too dark for them. So I'm like, okay, you know, towards the end of Spider-Man, I'm like, all right, you can watch the end of this. And they watch it and they're like, more, we want more. And I'm like, okay. So we watched the 1960s Batman movie.
Damn.
With Adam West and everything, and they watched it 3 times.
Wow.
The thing about kids is you show them what you love, and you're like, yes, this is awesome. And then 6 hours later, after you've seen the same thing, you're like, all right, let's let's do something else. But no, so they love Pokemon. Lulu, she loves superheroes. She has a cape. She's so funny. She'll wear her Princess Sophia dress when they do dress up. She'll wear that with either a Superman or a Spider-Man cape, and then one of the masks. And she's like, I'm the princess that's gonna save the world, you know. Wow. So I do that. But there's things that they're into that I've had to get into myself. Like My Little Pony. Okay. So
you're a My Little Pony fan.
I am.
Please tell me
Brony.
Brony. Yeah.
Twilight Sparkle, all those guys. That's actually the last movie I've seen in theaters, believe it or not.
Oh, the most
it is My Little Pony, the movie.
We'll give you a review.
The kids loved it. I mean, the kids loved it. So, but things that I try to pass on to them is just not only things that I enjoy, but also the way that I want them to live their life, right? Mm-hmm. So, being nice, my wife was listening to the podcast while they were playing or whatever. And, I made that comment of, I'm white. I don't know, like, what it's like, why it's so important to be an African-American 25-year-old male. Yeah. I don't know why that's important. Well, Kinsey picked up on that. And she goes, Dad's white? What does that even mean? And,
and she's 5, right?
Yeah, she's 5. So 5, almost 5.5. But, to me, that made me proud. That at 5 years old, my kid didn't even know what that word meant. Didn't even know. So it's that kind of stuff, I had her on my shoulders, and we were working on our speech. So I was asking her to point stuff out at the grocery store, right? Like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's a banana. That's that. And then this little old lady came by. That's a human being. Then this young little kid came by. That's a human being. Dad, look at all these human beings. And I'm like, yes. So, yes, I would love for them to grow up and love anime and love, superheroes and all that stuff. But they're also their own person. Mm-hmm. And so what I try to pass on is passion and love and respecting everybody for who they are. And that's what I try to pass on. They're huge into gaming. I can't get them off My Sims right now. They love building stuff and doing all that. They're really into sports. This is a perfect example. So I love sports. I consider myself a sports nerd. Or sports geek, however you want to say it. I'm a huge Chiefs fan, huge Royals fan, huge Packers fan, grew up a Packers fan. My oldest, ZZ, she loves the Lions. The Lions.
She has to.
The Lions, man. And then...
That's a losing hope.
Yeah, and then Lulu, she loves the Chiefs. So anything that's red on TV when I'm watching football, if the team's red, go Chiefs, Yeah. But, and ZZ will always be like, is the Lions game on? They know Sunday is football day. Yeah. So there are things that I'm passing on, but for me, it's the passion of those things and wanting to do those things. When it comes to music, they love the Beatles because I forced it down their throat. So this is what I did. So, I work nights mostly now. Right. So I make a big breakfast in the morning. I make a big deal, pancakes, whatever. Well, while I'm cooking, I always listen to the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band album. And so now that's what they ask.
You programmed your kids with the Beatles.
Hey, man, it's a good band to be programmed to. But, but that's because... I love the Beatles so much because my dad used to sing me that. I didn't go to bed to lullabies and goodnight songs. I went to bed to, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely, him singing those songs. So for me, that's what's passing on is just showing them things and enjoying that with them so that they have good memories of it. And it makes them feel good when they do it.
So... Are you going to turn them on to some Black Sabbath too?
When they get older.
Are you or are you not going to turn them on to Black Sabbath at the age of 7, man? Come on, that's the prime age.
They already like Drake and Kendrick Lamar, so
like Drake.
Yeah, they like Drake. All right. I
Damn
got
you,
them.
Drake.
They and then they like Lucy's favorite song right now is Bougie Bitch.
Okay, that's interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Oh my god! And they love Nicki Minaj.
Oh, no.
Anaconda. Every time that song comes on.
My anaconda don't.
Oh my
none
God.
unless you got.
And the lyrics, man, they're awful. They're awful.
You need to turn
It
your
just
radio.
sounds catchy. It is. I mean, I think that's like any song though, because it would be. I remember my mom telling me stories. You know, it's any song you hear, it's just you don't know what it's about.
Right.
The song's about the woman in the night or whatever. But that's a prostitute, and it's like that's just that catchy song I like. It's like,
You know,
oh,
I
that's
never knew
prostitutes.
the air in the night was about. That's some creepy ass shit. And I'm feeling
coming-
it down.
yeah.
I didn't know what the fuck. I'm just thinking.
It's just a catchy song.
Falling in the air.
Well, like,
that's about
and-
some guy being murdered or something.
Yeah, and then Roxanne.
Yeah,
that's about him
right.
stalking somebody.
Yeah.
You
It's
just
about
ruined
a
that song
stalker.
for me.
And
That's a great
then,
song. I love that song.
well, since we're ruining things and we're talking about showing shows and stuff, have you heard of the fan theory about Rugrats?
Yes.
I didn't till the other day till you killed my child. Till you literally
You didn't
killed
know
my
that?
child.
I've-
Well, actually,
man,
no,
I
I
watched
did.
so many
I actually
videos
did
of
hear
it.
of it. He kind of just refreshed. I successfully forgot about it. Seen the episode and didn't even think about it. He said, "Hey man, you know the Rugrats are really dead." I'm like, what the fuck? What do you mean? No, what do you mean? That's what I. But yeah,
There's
you know.
always some dark theory. It's always the same theory though. That's the stupid thing about the theory.
Well, right, so that leads into like, do we always have to have a dark side of the moon to enjoy the sunlight from the sunshine?
What
like-
the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, so
the
like
good with the bad.
Yeah, the good with the bad. Like, do you always
Little
have
philosophical guy here. Do you enjoy the?
No,
Fruity
but I mean,
Pebbles
like,
by the lake.
you know, does it have to rain for us to enjoy a pretty day? Does it have to be cold for us to enjoy
The heat.
the heat? I mean,
I think-
does that have to happen?
I think that varies from person to person because you can just like how anyone can like anything, anybody can hate anything. Like it could be the coolest thing in the universe, like this amazing piece of art, and it's just like that looks like trash to me. And it's like it doesn't. Sometimes it's just the person does not like it. If it could be the most horrible thing, the next day could be perfect, and it's just like I didn't like that other part though of the perfect day, and you. It just depends on who focuses on what.
But again, that's still. I mean, do you have to have negativity to create positivity? Do you have to Do you have to have that sense of logic or waiting for the ball to drop to be able to enjoy moments?
Well, you know, I think, and I didn't mean to clown your question, Nate. You know, just
No, it's all
the
right,
philosophical way you put it was just so eloquently put.
It's all right, man.
It took me
Here,
back,
you ready?
but-
Shit, fuck. There you go. We're back.
No,
to,
but actually, what I think is real interesting because I think that's actually a more philosophical question because, you know, if you're asking, do you have to have the bad to have the good? I think, yeah, you know, I subscribe to, and I know a lot of people do the law of attraction, which I kind of did a video on earlier today. That's why I was late. I was like 10 minutes late. But yeah, the law of attraction, which says like it starts off, you kind of have to know where you are to be able to get what you want. So it's like I have to know what feels negative, I have to know what poverty is before I know how to attract what wealth is. You know, I have to understand what the polarity is. And we live in a world of polarity. It's duality. It's white, black, you know, up, down. That's what it is.
But do we have to live in a world like that? Or now are we just talking about utopias that we know will never exist? Because that's always the argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
A utopia will never exist where, you know, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, because people have to be sheep. They can't think for
just be
themselves.
perfect,
They can't, you know, you there's people out there that have to feel like they're better than other people. You know, is that true?
I would say yes, unfortunately. I mean, it might not be as common, but there will always be. I mean, like, it's even in movies. There's always, like, the worst thing could happen in a movie, like a zombie apocalypse. There's still the douchebag who, like, pushes that person to live until the end. And it's just like, dang, you could have, like, all we had to do is go out this way, and you, like, we didn't even need this. But
Get
you
the
got
fuck
me
out of my
killed.
way, Grandma.
It's just like,
Fuck you.
There's always,
There's always
somehow
that one
there
guy.
will be that
Yeah,
person.
that's humanity, man. I'm sorry. That is what humanity is.
And even, you know, like that's an unfortunate part of it, but it's like that, oddly, that person will make the negativity because there technically doesn't need to be, but there's always something. And there's the whole concept of everyone's different. So, of course, what one person like, the other person might not. So even,
Like,
you know,
oh, it's a
helping
beautiful
each other.
sunshiny day. Well, it kind of hurts my head a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
the thing.
Oh, sun! This sun hurt my eyes. It's giving me. What you mean, the sun? You know?
Some people like summer, some people like winter, like
Right.
that sort of thing. So just like different stuff, and that can contribute to it, but there's always that person that's just legitimately negative. It's not like I just don't like this. It's like I'm just trying to look out for me, and even though I could avoid even hurting other people, I will do that because it makes it like that extra couple of seconds makes it easier for me to get where I need to get going. And it's just like that. It's just just that person will be there somehow, or will form or something.
So this goes back to our first point. Does paying forward even matter? Does doing good things matter?
I mean, it matters. It does matter, because clearly, it's a lot of, really fucked up people in the world to say, you know what I'm saying? Because generally, I don't think, even though I say, that's humanity, I don't want to seem like a downer. There is good that exists in people. You know what I'm saying? It's just, those people are a little bit more suppressed, because I even look at people like, some people I know, some friends I know, they are generally good, but they're so naive. Like, when I get into stuff about, me, I'm way into conspiracies and all this type of stuff. So even when I talk about that, some people get taken aback by that. Like, oh, there are some people generally say, I don't believe that the world is, ran by this and they're, doing this and doing that. They just don't want to believe that type of stuff. So it's hard to convince people of that,
Right.
But
just like it's hard to convince the opposite, right? Yeah. That everything's rainbow and butterflies.
Right. So, that's just, it's terrible people in the world, but it's good people in the world too to offset that. But speaking of terrible people, a report just came out, I think it was today or yesterday, in the Washington Post, which it was talking about a little bit about Ben Affleck and Casey Affleck and their ties to Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
And of course we know about the stuff that's been coming out about Harvey Weinstein. He's been, raping and pillaging all over, for about 30 years.
That's just been coming up a lot in general, though. Yeah. Like, even outside of him, I feel like
a lot of raping
every other week has just been some.
Well, I think the floodgates have finally been opened. I mean,
which is good.
I think the public, and we've talked about this. I think the public knew in the back of their mind that the entertainment industry had a whole different set of rules than maybe the normal Joe does. I mean, they've done it in movies, they've done it in TV and stuff.
Yeah.
Made that connection of, oh well, you got to sleep with the producer to get the role. Me and my wife were huge Friends fans. And Joey's character is the hustler, the guy, and many times he got a role because he slept with the producer. Right? They played it that.
Yeah, they slipped that in there.
Yeah,
you kind of didn't notice it because he was a man, and he kind of enjoyed it.
Like, to me, like, the industry is known forever that that's just kind of the way it is. But now that we're so in tune with everything and so
just aware,
aware and picking battles every week. This week it's save the actresses who had to suck dicks. You know what I mean? Like, and next week it's gonna be save the kids who don't have homes. I'm serious. I know you guys laugh at me, but like.
This is the way you put it.
Yeah, well,
that would not be the hashtag.
Save the actresses who had to suck dicks. They had to do it.
Hashtag spit or swallow. No.
Damn.
Okay. Sorry.
But feminists don't come at me. I'm not a part of this conversation. No, just go ahead.
Humor's how I deflect things, so I'm sorry. But no, the thing is like, now it's out in the open, and these people that have made their lives of being in the public eye, now all their shit that they're doing bad, like Kevin Spacey and all this fucked up shit, Bill Cosby, all this fucked up shit. That's why it's so divided. Because what we were just talking about, some people are like, I don't care if you show me a video of this motherfucker drugging someone and raping someone, I'm not gonna believe it. He made me laugh. He made me feel good. I remember him, I remember him teaching me how to be, a strong person. You know what I mean? Or whatever. He made a great movie. He did these great things. He's helped all this stuff. Whatever the case may be. That's why it's so divided. Like, the bottom line is that women are treated like dirt in that industry.
Well, I want to ask you, what's your take on that? Because it's funny that you said that, because when I was reading this article earlier today, I did kind of feel like, when I was reading it, I looked at the headline and I'm like, Ben Affleck? No. But then, it asks an article and like he's kind of known for groping people. But I want to ask you, like, what do you think? when I seen that, the first thing I felt was, damn, not Ben Affleck. But then as I read, I'm like, you know what? Fuck Ben Affleck. Fuck him. But how do you think we should feel about, because like you said, we grew up with some of these people. We feel about a way. How should we feel?
It's tough because with the way society is, or was, I don't know, because I really feel like it's transitioning right now. Yeah. But the way that it was is that phrase, boys will always be boys, right? You know, we make fucked up decisions because we're supposed to be the hierarchy or the monarch of our society, which isn't true by any means. But you know, it's this thing where you grew to think you knew something, and now it's totally flipped the script, and it's happening to a lot of people at once. Yeah. Because someone was brave enough to say something, and the way that I remind myself of, you know, because when I heard about Bill Cosby, I'm like, no way. Yeah. Bill Cosby, like, no way. You know, like, it really bothered me. But the fact of the matter is that actors, whoever, big figures, people who make money, they're still human. They're still fucked up humans, right? Just like normal Joe society, there's fucked up humans. Yeah. You know, so basically what I'm trying to say is that I think the industry did a good job of covering it up. They just can't do it anymore.
So how do you think people should react to that? Should we not you know, see their movies? Should we you know what I'm saying? Should people just not mess with that person? Should the industry be boycotted? Because, you know,
that's such a gray area, man. So because
multi-layered, yeah.
Because now with Kevin Spacey, yeah, fuck him. Fuck him. He's still doing it. Now, if you made a mistake when you were younger and dumber, and you're trying to get better and be a better human, then that's different. I mean, I don't know, man, because when I think of questions like that, I think of my wife and I think of my kids, on both spectrums, right? If this was happening to my kids or my wife, how would I react? And if they were the ones doing it, how would I react?
It's a hard spot to be in because you, like you just said, you have to almost live in every version of that scenario at once to figure out where to land. And even in that moment, it's hard to do that because you still have that. Ultimately, it still will come down to that disconnect that you have, or connect that you have with whoever it might be that did it, if it was a famous person, especially with I think Bill Cosby is the biggest example as far as, like, it's Bill Cosby, The Cosby Show, Fat Albert, like, he was always the nice guy.
Well, and let's talk about the elephant in the room. He's a man of color as well.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and for him to be the first one that came out, that really split people. Yeah, 50-50. You know, there were a lot of people that came out and said, "Oh, you're just trying to push the black man down, or you're trying to do this, and you're trying to eliminate what he did for so many years."
And then you have to,
but
consider what is after a certain number of women come forward. You have to consider that. When you walk like
a duck and quack like a duck, you're a duck. I mean, that's the bottom line, and it's just to talk about what you talked, it's horrifying and it's amazing all at the same time, because we're living in a society where people don't have to be scared as much anymore, from a general scope, from my perspective, right? We can be a lot more free, you know.
It's easier to find the people that have dealt with what you dealt with now than it has ever been, where you can be that first person and it'll freak you out. And of course, it's the internet. There will be people that say you're lying or F you or whatever, but you will find somewhere in there where someone's like, no, that happened to me too. Even if it wasn't that person, it happened over here, or I understand that. And it's definitely easier in that regard. Despite, I mean, even with that, it's still nearly impossible to be like, that's, depending on the industry, can still be whatever.
Yeah, and to go back to your question, you know, I'm biased. My kids are adorable. But I've said in the podcast before, there's a reason we haven't called up Carters or, you know, posted pictures or anything like that, because I know what the world's like. You know, I know what men or people of power can do to a young mind. And that's a scary thought, man. It's a scary thought, you know? So, I don't know. I mean, I hope that answered your question, but I mean, however you react isn't the wrong way. That's how you feel.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just an odd place to be.
It's funny that, but you mentioned Invisiblekatana, like, social media is playing a huge role in pretty much every aspect in life. We had a conversation on the last podcast talking about, is social media good or bad? You know, I don't want to, say I told you so, or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, could this be one of the good aspects of social media?
Well, it's definitely good for sure. Like, I don't think we came to the conclusion it was bad, but there's always good with bad.
Yeah, I mean, like we just said 20 minutes ago, with good comes bad. With greatness comes shit. Right. I mean, that's just the way the world turns.
Right, because like I said, with that post or with that article in the Washington Post, it basically talked about Ben Affleck and that a lot of PR firms and agencies in Hollywood are saying, you know what, we are screwed. Like, everything that's coming out is affecting everybody because, kind of like the tree theory is kind of just spreading out. The branches is touching everybody. Everybody associated.
Well, that community, that business workforce, if you will, the 5% of it, or the A-listers and B-listers, that's a small community. Yeah. You guys, I mean, if you go through IMDb and just pick a movie, a big blockbuster movie, and read the facts, it'll be like, oh, Jennifer Aniston worked with X, Y, and Z 5 years ago in this movie. Oh, so maybe that's why they did it. Like, it's a very interconnected workforce. Yeah. And so because of that, it's imploding in itself. Right. It really is. I mean, I think we're witnessing, and you can call this a prophecy of Mr. Fantastic, the decline of A-listers, B-listers, C-listers. I think they're all just going to be considered actors or whatever. Like, there's no echelon anymore. There's no tier.
Someone at the top.
I disagree with that. I would say that it is changing and it is going to change, but that hierarchy is always going to stay in place. I think what's going to happen, and this is the Anarkist prophecy. This is the real prophecy. Forget it, Mr. Fantastic prophecy, but no, the real prophecy is that the hierarchy is going to stay in place, but I think a lot of the internet-based content is going to move a lot higher than film, a lot higher than TV. I think a lot of these YouTubers, a lot of these, internet sensations and creators are going to be like considered number one. They're going to move higher up, and the A-list actors, they probably going to deplete and go down.
I think you're right, because I think we're already witnessing that. And I don't know if it's because I'm older. I don't know if it's because of technology. But how involved A-listers are hosting game shows on networks, doing commercials. Like, that didn't happen a lot back in the day. And now, like, it's all over the place. And I think it's because the smart ones realize, hey, I've got to figure out 16 different ways to make money, because I don't know when the next
big person will come along.
A big picture.
Not even movie based.
Right, exactly.
Based, yeah.
That's so interesting, because what I really want to talk about is, I was thinking about this before. I'm a thinker, so I think to myself. But, what I believe that is the cause of is, because think about way before there was TV, way before, movies, even think about way before even radio. The most popular people that people liked and said, you know what, this person deserves to be famous, this person deserves to be a celebrity, were like people who actually did shit. Scientists, authors, people who actually made a mark in the world for people to say, you know what, that was pretty great. Yeah. Now we get Cash Me Outside Girl and all these, Pootie Pie, you see what I'm saying? Like, all these people that, and I'm not trying to down what they do, Pootie Pie's a really good gamer, whatever, Cash Me Outside, I don't know what the fuck she does, but keep doing whatever you're doing.
She fucking made money. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? Like, right. I mean, one of my favorite questions is, if you got all the money in the world, would you do a porno if your family had to see it? Would you, if your family had to see it and you made like a porn or whatever, whatever it is, most embarrassing thing, whatever, would you do it for all the money in the world? My answer is no.
No.
But am I missing out on that money because I won't sell my soul to the devil, right? I won't sell my integrity.
Well, clearly you are.
Well, no.
Am I missing out on it?
No. But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, these people, we don't like them or whatever. Yet we're the same people who use that, like Catch Me Outside or whatever, and view that shit and all that stuff. And so they're making theirs and they're taking care of theirs.
Yeah.
They just lost integrity on the way.
And sometimes they didn't, because I'm sure the Catch Me Outside girl, that was just her.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Calling the audience hoes, like, that's
Well,
so
yeah, I'm definitely not putting it on the quote unquote celebrity or the famous person, but
it's
we as
the
consumers,
people. Yeah, exactly.
What do you feel about us? Because that obviously says we don't value, because there are tons of authors, most of whom I don't know who they are, even though I read a lot of books. I know a lot of niche authors, stuff that I read, but they aren't like the most famous people who write really good books, or even directors sometimes. You kind of know a few names here and there, but
and I think that's kind of a part of what you said, where it's like, it's people that did stuff. I think it almost became so many people do stuff now. It's just whatever I like. It's just like no big deal.
Name a director off the top of your head right now.
Chris Nolan,
Martin Scorsese.
Okay. I was gonna say Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be the same people. Exactly. It'll be the same people. Exactly.
Now Chris Nolan, I'll give you that. He's been around for what, 20 years now? 20-ish?
About 20.
Memento, man, that movie changed my life. But anyway,
Memento.
Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Which one?
Scott Pilgrim, Edgar Wright. Scott Pilgrim, Shaun of the Dead, with the whole Cornetto trilogy. Love his stuff for sure. Edgar Wright is a great director.
So he makes great movies, but what separates
And he also does some writing stuff too.
Does
and
writing.
I think that's a part of it.
But he's not going to be a name on the top of somebody's list. Like, the point of that is exactly... Yeah. Like, it's exactly that. Is like, at some point, consumers, sorry to the listeners, stop caring about being smart. Stopped caring about good work, or
you hit a brick wall of this is great, and then that's it. As if there can't be that next great thing or that next great person. Even this is great. It's this person or these people that did it in this line. And then everyone else starts to, it's like a waterfall. It kind of falls off after that.
So does that set up consumers, inventors, whatever, of the next generations to fail? If we feel this way, if we're acting this way?
I think it depends on where you are. As far as if it's media in terms of movies, it can be different than media in terms of music, for sure. Like, there's so many weird layers to all that stuff. Like, especially now with memes. You can get famous for like the most random. I heard something. There's this woman. She's called like Traffic Bay. I was like, what is this? I saw a picture of this woman. I was looking up like thumbnails for a TV show for a review on my channel, and I saw this picture. She was just really attractive. That's honestly why I clicked on it. And there was like this woman who's called Traffic Bay. And I was like, I have never heard of this before. But she's like all over social media. She's like just this very attractive traffic reporter in I just heard of that, and that was because I was looking up thumbnails of like Gotham on Google, and I was like, because random pictures just show up, and I was like, who is this? Because she's really attractive, she's really pretty, and that was honestly it. And it's like this weird thing where depending on what you're in, you can get famous because literally one person can say one thing, and or they'll say like this is like in a much lesser extent, but people saying like this bad thing happened to me, and then other people finally see that. The same can happen for useless stuff, where it's like this person's super high, and then a bunch of people are like, yeah, I think that too, and then like that's how it takes off. Or this commercial is like super funny, like Billy Mays, because he did a bunch of like random products. Billy Mays is known as and he's been dead for years.
Or the Sonic drive-through guys. They've been doing that for 15 years. Yeah. They make like, we looked it up the other day. Me and the wife did, and they make like they make like $280,000 a year, and they do like 6 to 10 commercials.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can get that stuff. Like, and that's the thing. Like, Flow from Progressive. Went to Progressive with my girlfriend.
They made a TV show about the caveman.
Oh yeah, the caveman. I remember that.
To like give a week to like Flo, she played the girlfriend on that show.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Yeah, see, and stuff like that definitely can just be a thing. Like, you have insurance companies. Like, the craziest thing, the General?
General.
I remember that not being a thing, and I was like, it's the General with Shaq. Like, Shaq is in like, I feel like half those freaking commercials with the General, and it's like, this is so weird to me, because I remember when this first came out, and I was like, I wonder what this is going to be.
Geico commercials started animated. They were animated shorts that made you laugh or whatever, and then it was and now it's turned into this whole
They have like
branding.
Yeah.
I mean,
they had like the Geico Gecko for a super long time, and now he talks sometimes, and now they have the other crazy commercials, which are actually insanely good commercials, the ones where the wall is pushing in.
Yeah.
Just watching that, I'm like, that's a really cool looking commercial.
Yeah.
To have people act that, and they literally have a wall like pushing in on people. It's like, that's such a random thing to have, but that's a really cool commercial, and it's just, you have that there, and it's just something that you keep doing, or, you know, if it's internet based, it can be something you do once that's great, and then
okay, now
it's there.
Speaking of good commercials, good anime commercials like the Geico one, anime top 5, go.
Anime or animated?
Anime and anime movies, just anime. So
just anime?
Yeah.
Okay.
Top 5 anime movies. There is. I'm gonna be super generic. I'm gonna just say Akira, just so we can have that out there. Or Akira, however you want to pronounce it. Akira. I love that because that is a great that's a great movie. Like, that is, I think, one of the most expensive anime movies. Like, the animation in that is top notch. Like, it's insane watching that. Like, some of the details, because you don't get that sort of stuff unless you spend like millions of dollars. Because animation is like crazy. So Akira is definitely phenomenal. There's a recent one called Your Name, which has been like, I think it's like the biggest selling Japanese anime movie like ever. And I like the movie. It's really well done. It's actually made by a guy who made another story called, I want to say it's 5 centimeters per second. I read the manga for that. I love that story. It's insanely sad to me, but that's personal stuff. But I love that story, and I was like, this is really interesting. I'm like, this story seems so much like that other movie, and it was like, oh, it's the same guy. And I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. It's like it's almost the same story. There's more supernatural elements to it, but I was like, I love that. That's really good. And I believe it's called Your Name. Another really good one, I'm trying to think of like, not like anime movies from like TV shows, because I want to say like some of my Naruto stuff, but
that's okay, man. It's your list.
I know that's true.
We did say movies though. You talking about TV shows?
Yeah. Well, no, the anime have movies.
Oh, the movies that built up.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to like just flood it with that. I'm trying to think like my unique ones that I've maybe seen like once or twice, but it's like I still love those movies because you still have like, you know, of course, the Studio Ghibli stuff. I think out of those, maybe Howl's Moving Castle is probably one of mine.
Moving Castles?
Howl's Moving Castle for Studio Ghibli.
Sound almost like yours.
That's totally fine. Definitely if I go with some of my anime movies, I would, or as far as from TV shows, I can't think of which one it is. I would probably say the first Bleach anime movie. Bleach, I know people hate the anime because like it was like so many fillers and they screwed up with that, but the movies are some of the best anime movies based off a TV show where it's like they just do a nice set single story and the characters are just great, and it's like, man, I love all of those. The Bleach movies are just so well done. And one of my favorites as far as Naruto movies, I would say is the second Shippuden movie, because they, I swear, have a dozen movies. The Boruto movie, which is one of the more, like, the most recent one, that's actually great too, and that leads into like the current generation of Naruto anime. But that's actually a really great anime movie. It's incredibly well done.
Okay, Nate, you got 5?
Yeah. Spirited Away.
Howl
again. I mean, it's a great. Have you seen the God, what's it called? I just watched it with the kids the other day. Red
Line?
Red Turtle.
I have not seen
the big red sea, the red turtle. That was amazing. It was not a lot of voice acting. It was mostly musical and stuff. Okay. And it's about a guy who gets stranded, and then he creates a family there. It's awesome, all by a turtle. So it's like a mix of Castaway with The Giving Tree. So it's really interesting. It's on my list for nostalgia, and it's in my top 5 of almost anything. But Pokemon 2000. I mean, when I saw Mewtwo, it was incredible. So, and then probably to round it out would have to be any of the Ghost in Shell. I love Ghost in Shell. You know, I mean, they made live action American movies.
Now, is it true that Ghost in the Shell actually inspired The Matrix? Yeah, I heard that.
Those are good too. The Matrix.
Actually, Ghost in the Shell.
The Matrix animated movies are good too.
Animatrix is actually great. There's 2, because they're done like as episodes. Yeah. The 2 episodes that I say are the best out of the Animatrix are the ones that talk about the war from like when robots took over. Those are 2 like the best like short stories I've ever seen. Like, that's insanely well done, and it's super dark. I mean, obviously, if you've seen The Matrix, you know, like, basically humanity is sunken. It shows how it got there in those 2 episodes, and it's really insane. Incredible. It is crazy. So I love that.
Hey T, man, you know, speaking of nerd shit, I want to get to the conventions because you just did were at a convention, but before that, you are the only one of us three who's seen the Thor movie. Give your official review right now, and before you give your review, now you know I gotta talk a lot of shit because that's what I do. I'm the anarchist. My thing is with this, I was going to see the Thor movies because here's the thing: we have a podcast. We have a podcast.
We do,
and I'm taking that serious. You see. You know, my thing is, I'm a movie buff. I'm a filmmaker. I'm in love with film. But I'm not in love with Hollywood films. Actually, I hate Hollywood films now because they give you the same. It's basically McDonald's. So to get a good thrill out of films now, I have to go abroad. You know, I'm looking at, you know, Asian films, European films. Netflix. So the thing is, these films, I'm just totally against American films unless they just blow me out of the water. No more, it was a good film and you gotta go see it because it was Spider-Man.
Even at McDonald's, you still want that quarter pounder every once in a while, man. Like,
I don't eat McDonald's, sir. But anyway, T, go ahead and give this Thor review, and if it's not awesome, then I'm definitely.
Well, you probably won't. You want to see it. But we were talking about this earlier, Nate. So Thor Ragnarok, I'm not gonna spoil it or anything. I just I liked it, didn't like it. Thought it was good. It has what I would personally say. I would say it has the best visuals out of any Marvel movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
Even I would say it's beyond that. Like it's just certain shots. Like even from this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer. There's a shot with the main villain Hela where it almost looks like it's like a hellscape, and it's like a bunch of Valkyries coming down on like Pegasi and stuff. That scene is insane. Like it's all in slow motion, but like I swear it looks like an oil painting when you see some of these shots, and it's like some of the best visuals, and everything is like just over the top in visuals. There'll be like fireworks and stuff. The ending fight is absolutely insane with Thor. Like everyone's fighting somewhere, but it all just looks nuts. And Hela, like her main thing is that she basically spawns blades. So that's like her fighting through the whole movie. It's like her flipping and spinning, and she'll like spawn blades at people. So visually, I'd say it's like my favorite movie. I love definitely Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 to have great visuals. I think 2 outdoes 1 as far as visuals, but I feel like this as far as like high octane visuals where it's not just like, oh, this looks pretty. It's like pretty because it's in motion. Like it's not just like, oh, that looks cool because they're staring at this world that's like a great vista. It's like in action. It looks great.
And it's funny you mention that because that goes to my point. You speak to the very good visuals, which I don't think it's hard to do when the movie's worth $1 billion or you put like a $500 million behind a movie.
You can say that, but then you have stuff where it's like,
that's just me being fucking.
I know, but I mean, you put a bunch of money into a movie and it's based on what you decide to choose. Because Batman, I'd say, great movie. I couldn't care less what it looks like because it's dark. It's Batman. It looks like it's nighttime, and it doesn't look like anything special. It looks like I went outside at night. I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm talking about just as far as over the top like visual stuff. Yeah. Like I'm looking at this, like I take a picture of Thor. There are parts where you can take a picture and it's like I would frame that.
Wow, okay.
I would not do that with Batman because it's like it's Batman. It's meant to be dark and night. It's not meant to be over the top.
Right.
But they did that with Thor.
As far as like, because Batman's gonna be dark, but when we're talking about visuals of the movie, I think he shot that with what? He didn't shoot that with.
I mean, it looks great. I'm just talking about like if you pause the movie, like this scene right here looks great.
And you can move it up.
The art, so you're more talking about the artistic stuff.
And I'm also, I mean, I can say that from the other 2 Thor movies. The first one I thought was fine. The first Thor movie, they're in a small town that's basically in the desert. It has no real visual style. I like the first movie. The second movie was basically gray tone because like, I swear to God, that whole movie was them in London and it was like raining the whole movie. Like I feel like every scene I remember, it's either raining or it is cloudy unless they're on one of the other planets in one of the other realms. So it's like I can even look at the other 2 Thor movies and then go to this and be like, that's insane. And it goes even beyond, in some elements, Guardians of the Galaxy. As far as like the actual story, I think it was well done. The comedy is good. I feel like they finally found their niche with Thor because it was like...
Do you think... Because my opinion about Thor is Guardians had to come out for them to find their niche with Thor.
I would say that for sure. Because I would say... we had so many movies and it's the same thing, like, you know, Marvel movies come out and it's like, okay, we have the same thing or, you know, people are always talking about, are we going to get to that point where it's just too many comic book movies because nothing is different? And then you have Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a huge surprise. You have Deadpool, which was big. Logan, even though that was definitely more serious because it was finally a rated R like Wolverine movie, and it was such an emotional story when you go through it all. It's like these are things that can work within that world, but when you see it, much like The Dark Knight, it feels so different. Like it's a comic book movie, but they do that story so differently. And I would say this was, even though it wasn't as different as like Logan being super dramatic because it's like X-Men, but they made it super serious, or Deadpool, which technically was only different because they took it to the rated R point, even though it was still just a comedy superhero movie. I don't think they did that as much with Thor, but I think for the Thor movies, they found exactly where they needed to be, where they ride the line of this is some serious stuff that's happening, but there's also some good comedy elements in there. And they have, you know, one of the good things they actually do is build up, oddly enough, Thor and Loki, because they did that a lot, and it actually works in the third movie as well, where they've at this point kind of learned, like Thor at one point he kind of learns his lesson, like, I love my brother, but that dude is an a-hole. He's always saying I'm with you until that last point when he's not, and it's like, man, I effed up again and I trusted my brother. So they have those moments where it does actually develop with even just Thor as a person, because the whole first movie was about that with his hubris and stuff. And so they still kind of make it work in this third movie as well. But like you said, as far as it has to be like, you know, brand new and this and that, I don't think you'll care that much.
It's not,
but it's going to be a good movie.
Okay, but it's a good movie, good review, man. Definitely. You know, you should definitely clip this up and put it on your page. Invisiblekatana on YouTube. Go check that out.
I did my regular review, and I did a spoiler-free review, and I do a spoiler discussion as well, so you can check those out.
Okay. You know, keeping to the topic of nerd shit, man. How was the convention? You know,
it was good. Youmacon 2017. It is in downtown Detroit, Renaissance Center, and now Kobo, because it is the we were talking about this, but it's technically not the Midwest, but it's the biggest convention in the Midwest, the biggest anime convention. It was good. It was probably rainier than it ever has been, because it was raining like crazy, I think Saturday night or Friday night, something like that. So that was nuts, because you have to, you know, going through panels, it's like, all right, this panel's in Kobo, and then this next panel is over at the Rinsen, so I have to walk from point A to point B in the pouring rain, hoping my camera doesn't get like messed up from the water.
Now, do you do cosplay and all that stuff, or?
I did like once, and that's mostly because when I go, I take pictures. Okay. So I don't want to get stopped because I'm trying to take pictures of everybody else. I did like one time, I think it was like one Sunday, because I did Marty McFly, because I have like the hat and the jacket and the shoes. So I did that, and I got, you know, a couple of people took pictures of me and stuff. But normally I just go and I just take pictures. And
you don't want nobody coming to you, hey, I'm Doc Brown, what's up, man?
I mean, I wouldn't mind that. It's just because I always go, it's like, all right, I want to get to the panels, and then I want to do photography. And even this year, like, I think it happens to me every year, but I'm like, I want to do photography so much, but then it's like, well, I go because I want to go to the panels. I love seeing people in cosplay, and I love getting the pictures, but like all my panels, I was just like, I was in panel mode. Like on Friday, I hardly took any pictures because I was like, I'm here because I want to see this random panel and have fun with that. I love the cosplays and I want to have those pictures, but ultimately, like, I'm paying the money to be here because I want to see the panels more than anything.
What was your favorite panel?
For me, there was one, Videos Against Humanity. It was like a Cards Against Humanity thing, but with video. So that was really funny. That was like 18 plus, so it was like vulgar stuff was in there too. So it was just like, we would vote on what we thought was the best video, and it would be like silly prompts, and then they had like a ton of videos, and they would pick a number, and then it was like 3 people on stage who like ran the panel, and then they would play whatever video they chose, and they would just go through. So I love that one. It was probably my favorite. A really good one was the Toonami Adult Swim Nostalgia panel. That I loved. Saw like a million old little blocks for old anime and old Toonami stuff, just going through the history of that and when Adult Swim kicked in.
I'm rewatching Wolf's Rain right now.
Oh, that's pretty good. That was one of the ones I actually saw in there. But yeah, those two I definitely loved. And, you know, going through as far as getting pictures with the cosplay, I worked on it a little bit more on Saturday, and then on Sunday, my little cousin actually came up, and it was the first time he'd ever been to a convention. And so his birthday was October 27th. So I was like, all right, well, if he comes up, that way he can pick out what he wants, because I hadn't gotten him a gift yet. So he came up, his aunt dropped him off, and we just went around. It was, I think he got there like 2:30, and we were there for like 3 hours or so until everything was done. And we just went around the dealer's room. He saw what he liked. I got him 2 things, and then we just took pictures with people, because he was like, I want to get a picture with this person, because he likes some anime stuff too. So he was like Voltron really characters, yeah, and it was like Voltron characters and just people dressed up, yeah. So he had a great time there, and I love that too. Just kind of going with him because he knew characters. I was like, I didn't know he was that into anime because he was like, I want to take a picture, and he said the name of the character. I was like, I don't even know who that is. So I was like, he definitely likes anime more than I actually realized. It wasn't just like Netflix Voltron.
So what is the like convention? What is that culture like? Like age range? What people do there? Like explain.
The age range is like every age. Like
every single age. Basically.
It wasn't this one, but I want to say it was a few years ago. It may have been Young, it may have been another convention. There was like an older couple, like senior couple, and they were Mario and Peach, and they were like full cosplay. It was like really good cosplay too. So you will see people like bringing their kids. Sometimes the parents are there because of the kids. Sometimes the parents are into it just like the kids are. You have little kids running on as Batman. There was a little kid. I don't know if it was like his dad or whatever, but the little kid was dressed like Link from Legend of Zelda, and the dad was like Deadpool, or not Deadpool, but oh my god, what is it? Deathstroke. Sorry, meant to be the same person anyway. But the kid was like playing around with him, and he was like, they would be like clashing swords and stuff, and just playing around with him, and the dad would like fall over like he got beat and stuff, and it was just them having fun, and it was just really cool. But that's what it's like. It's like people just go, you cosplay, or you'll see a ton of photographers and stuff like that too. People just going to take pictures, and it's just really cool. It's just like, this is really sweet. You just see people. Like one of my favorite things is just going to the convention. Like I'm driving about to go to my parking spot, and I'll see people. I'm like, all right, that's from that anime and that anime, and it's like downtown Detroit. So it's just a cool feeling, just being like, I'm here, and it's not something that happens all the time.
So do you have you been to any conventions, Nate?
Kansas City 1.
Okay, what was that about?
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's funny because I always preach like, show people stuff, do stuff like that, and like, I don't know, man. I like to enjoy it in my own way, and conventions and all that stuff. I just don't get excited about that kind of stuff. Like, who created this character, or who does this character now, or whatever. Like, it just doesn't
matter to you.
It really doesn't matter. Now, ZZ, I can already see it in her. Like, she's, she'll hear her voice and she goes, oh my gosh,
that's person.
Like we started, I think it's called like Dino X or something like that. And it's voiced by the same people who voice Pokemon.
Okay.
And she's like, oh my gosh, Dad, that's that's
person.
Ash.
Wow.
Yeah. So like she.
And I think that's something that happened for me as I grew up, because I never would really think about it. And then I could be like, okay, that's Yuri Lowenthal, who plays like Sasuke from Naruto, or Ben
and
10
so like
from
she's
Ben 10.
really
I'll know that
keen on that, and she wants to know who it is, who does this. Like I said, they watched towards the end of Spider-Man, and they're like, we want to watch another Spider-Man movies. Well, the older Spider-Man movies aren't as bad. They're not as violent. They're not as intense. Whatever. So I'm like, okay, and I clicked one, and that's not the same. who is so like. For her, I think it's going to be a big deal. I'll probably be going to a lot more conventions later in life, maybe. But, right. For me, it's just... I just like the different... I just like the different aspects of it. Yeah. It brings me joy for that hour and a half, that hour after I'm thinking about it. And then when I watch it, read it, whatever again. But I'm not one to be like, oh my gosh, I gotta do this. Yeah. But my kids are bringing that out in me. I mean, I dressed up as Man in the Yellow Hat for Halloween. When we play with their dress up stuff and all that, like I'm always a character and all that stuff. So I think it's gonna be in my future. But like for me, just my sister loves conventions. My dad loves conventions. Me, it's just not my thing, man. No. It's not me. Like I'd rather make personal connections with one or two people about something than there's 100 people that like what I like, you know what I mean?
Just
like
on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You talk about, your daughter being into it, so eventually you might just be the number one fan of conventions if she decides.
My Little Pony, whatever, right?
Yeah. So, but I wanted to get your take because one of the things I think about is, because I'm never ever going to have kids ever, is how people treat like, not just raising their kids on what they like and what they, like moral values and things like that, but as far as like words go. Like as far as like when what's your take on words? Because with me, I feel like
I'm new wavy, I guess. I don't know. My kids are allowed to curse. They can curse in the house. They're not allowed to curse in public.
Your kids are allowed to curse.
Yeah. So like if Kinsey gets mad and she says,
"Yeah, what the fuck?"
Yes. I don't get mad at the word. I get mad at her tone. Right. I get mad at the way she approached me.
Talk to you.
Right. if she said, Dad, what the fuck? She could say, Dad, what the heck? The intention is still the same.
Still the same.
The word doesn't matter. It interchanges, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm trying to raise my kids on tone and how they project themselves. If they're mad and they want to say fuck, then fine. Say fuck. Who cares?
Right.
Or shit or whatever. If they don't like saying that, they won't say it.
And see, the funny thing when you mention that, it depends on the audience that we get. But you saying your kids can say fuck, the first thing any black person will say is that won't happen if you're black. Because you'll get slapped.
What the fuck? Hit the floor.
And there are real stories like
but my wife struggles with that.
Yeah.
So we've kind of come to a compromise. Like, they know they're not supposed to say it, but if they do, they don't get punished for it. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there are 3 words that my kids will never hear me say, and they will never say, and that's the F word, that rhymes with baguette. Okay, that's the see you next Tuesday word. Okay, and that's the N word. Those 3 words for me are emotionally driven. They are mean. They were meant to be mean. There's certain nursery rhymes that I don't sing to my kids because of where they derived from. I don't want them thinking that that's an okay word. And it frustrates me sometimes because we talked about it. Some of her favorite music has those words in it, has that connotation in it. Right. But I have no right to tell people that have taken that word in as a culture or whatever that they can't say it because I didn't live that. My ancestors are the ones who used that word in a negative term. I didn't get called that. I don't get called that. So I can't say what I can do with that word. So my kids don't know that word. And any of them, right? Like, it's just one of those things where those 3 words to me are so powerful. So powerful. I mean, they are. I mean, but at the same time, certain cultures have taken that word as a sense of endearment. And I think it's hard for me as a white man to understand that,
and to take in the worst of what there is and
redirecting
it. Yeah.
But the way that I try to understand it is, nobody can call my sister that, but I can. Right? We've all heard that common phrase, whatever. And that's where I leave it at. My kids don't know those words. They don't use them. But yeah, I mean.
Now I want to ask you. All right. I think that's actually pretty cool because I think if I were a parent, which I'm never going to be, that probably is hard. Because the thing with words is, to me it's just like people they turn people off in a kind of way and they trigger some people. But at the end of the day, if you understand the origin of the words, like it really doesn't matter. But just to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit, because I know with some parents that hear this and say, I would never let my child use these kind of words. Yeah, but the thing is, I want to ask you. Because, all right, I believe this is probably the issue you're going to have to face. You won't punish your kids for saying the word, but what happens if, like, an issue comes up with that at school?
That's a public place. So that rule has already been established.
Okay.
I actually, when I was in the 4th grade, had to write a letter of an apology to my whole entire 4th grade class because I cursed a lot. So yes, I've cursed a lot my whole life.
Okay, so your kids understand like cursing here, good,
and
cursing here not good.
The fact of the matter is I hope that people say I'm wrong because we need that difference in opinion to be able to like parenting is hard. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. But with the word thing, like I hope that if that does happen, they come to school, that instead of punishing them for saying that, they come to me first, and so that we can punish them in the right way of, hey, this is a public place, you can't say that, I don't care what happens at home, but here in school you can't say that word. So that way I can back up the authority in that situation and say, they're right. I've told you that since you were a little tyke, You know, that these type of situations are not okay with that. And does that mean she might slip or say it and kids are going to laugh and she's going to do it? Yeah, but my parents told me cursing was bad and I did it anyway. So what's the difference? Yeah. You know, I'm trying to teach my kids how to use words in society currently right now appropriately. Right? Because words change. The meanings of words change. And so I'm doing the best that I can to teach them that.
Yeah, actually, you know, it's funny how you mentioned the words change, like the word bitch we talked about before.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting. It's a pagan goddess,
it's
right?
a pagan goddess. That's what the word bitch actually meant. It was a term of endearment that, different people use. I think in the Greek leading to Roman times, because bitch was an actual goddess of the dog star, I believe. And I got that in. If anybody is a nerd like me, you can read Barbara G. Walker's Women's Book of Encyclopedia, I think it is, Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, the Women's Encyclopedia. But yeah, it just goes over a bunch of words like bitch and where it came from. And that's real interesting. You know, we talked about it where, of course, the Roman Catholic Church didn't like the pagans in any way, so any word they were using.
So it became, I mean, that's the same as like when car dealers were trying to sell cars, so they made jaywalker a derogative term and made people feel bad for walking on the street when a car was going, when before those streets were made for walking, not driving, right? So for me, like, that's what words are. They have so many meanings and so many different origins, and bitch to you might mean something differently than bitch to me.
Right. Plus context and words, like,
right.
And somebody called, like, you hear with black women all the time, like, that's like a term of endearment sometimes. Bitch, what up, bitch? That's my bitch. But then, for same black woman calling up, like, you a stupid bitch, you might have a fight. It might be a world star moment. So.
And so that's the point of this is, you asked about words and what they mean to me. It's about using them in the correct situation, the correct way. Just like the, or and, or dog, or cat, or red, the color red, whatever. Yeah. Programming your kids or teaching your kids, programming is a fucked up word, but teaching your kids,
program in school,
it's teaching them how to use it, know when to use it, what it means, as opposed to focusing on the word itself. Because if I tell them, don't say bitch, that's a bad word. Well, why? Well, why is that a bad word? Why is that a bad word? Well, because back in the the early times, it became a negative word, and now it's derogatory towards women. Well, why is it derogatory towards women?
Yeah, you just
so like instead of blanketing something and answering 1,000 questions, I'm trying to guide them into finding out the answers, if that makes sense. Instead of saying, no, stop. Okay, now you can go, because this is what's funny is like, my parents got on me about cursing and all that stuff, but now that I'm a grown-ass person, they may mention it every once in a while, but it's not like it was when I was a kid. Well, why is an adult who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing able to use that word, as opposed to a kid who's learning how to use that word, not be able to use that word? So for me, that's kind of where it is. With words and stuff like that.
I really like your style of parenting, because I feel like, I know you call it new wavy, but to me, that's the sort of better way of parenting, because that sort of lets you guide your child into what they want to be. Like you said, one of your kids, she may be really into anime. She may be really into cartoons. So you're not just going, because I feel like back in the day, it was like, parents saw parenting as, well, my child is going to be, I'm into sports, so he's going to be one of the best. With some, and that could have been a kid like, with some playgirl under his bed.
That happened to me. I mean, about 2 or 3 years ago.
That was a kid that had a playgirl under his bed. That didn't happen to you, but
but what I mean is,
you didn't catch the last part.
No, sorry, because I interrupted, obviously.
But yeah, you had like a parent that,
no, like when I was parenting, I was pushing. Because I hate like the pink Nerf guns. I hate that there's girl stuff, boy stuff. Like it shouldn't.
Kind of like that,
yeah. I hate that stuff, man. My kid went as Curious George, and I think that's awesome. Yeah. But about 2 or 3 years ago, it was around Christmas, and they're showing us what they want Santa to bring them and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, why not this and why not this? And it's like, you're doing exactly what you hate. You're pushing shit on your kids, and you're doing it thinking that you're being vigilante and teaching them the right way, but you're doing it the same, thinking you're doing something right, and you're not. You know, so that's what I've learned.
More subtle, I guess, compared to super old school stuff.
Yeah, so like, you know, Lulu, dressed up as a unicorn, loves unicorn, but she will wrestle and loves action stuff and that kind of thing. So that's who she is right now. It may change 5 years from now. Who knows? But if I guide my kids with it and try to teach them what I can and learn from them too, then I feel like I've done a better job than if I'm like, I'm the law, I'm the law, I'm the law. Because I'm not trying to raise sheep. I'm trying to raise leaders.
Right.
And with that, I think if you guys want to go into one more topic, because we're like at the hour and a half mark, we can kind of end it out here. But I want to stick with the word thing. As far as, you know, you mentioned using words in certain contexts and everything and guiding them. I would love to know you guys' opinion on censorship as far as the words where you can't say. Because I never thought it made sense. Like, a great example I have right now is The Walking Dead on AMC is cleared to use 2 F-bombs. And it's like, what does it matter? They've been cleared to do that, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like, it's the F-bomb, so you're not supposed to say it. There's like a certain time limit where the FCC or whatever, you can start to say more stuff.
Gotcha.
But it's like, when you get to the point of you can say it once, what does it matter in any regard? If you use it once, it's
right.
there.
Right. That would be like saying, okay, selling drugs is illegal, but on October 31st at 8 to 12, sell all the drugs you want. But
like the FCC's like the purge, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's kind of crazy. Like, I don't know. In my head, I just think everything in entertainment is in bed with each other. So in order to sell shows, hey, FCC, you know, we can drop this F-bomb. And I don't know if they just found a loophole in it, but, you know, I think it's...
I mean, the FCC is there, and maybe I'm wrong, to make people like my wife or like me sometimes comfortable with watching a show.
Yeah.
Feel safe, that there's guidelines on what the show has to be like, you know, this smoke and mirrors, because to me, censorship is overrated. It may be tough sometimes hearing something.
Yeah.
You know, like, because censorship doesn't only happen in TV shows. We censor ourselves. You know, we were just talking about it. It's okay to do this here, but it's not okay to do this here.
Speaking of censoring ourselves, I might be censoring us on YouTube. Got to get that money. Continue, Nate. Got to get that money.
Man, you'd have to take out so much stuff for the YouTube thing.
Fuck you.
You definitely have to take that girl sucking dicks line out, but... no, but I mean, censorship is so overrated, but it's a sense of feeling safe, really.
But to me, it's so stupid now, because it's like, okay, back when, you know, TV was just something that entered your home every, you know, few hours a day. It's like, okay, I could understand censoring something in, because you could be in a household that, you know, you never heard that word, you know, but now because of the internet, it's like, kids have heard all the words.
And even without the internet, where we are now is so different from, like, if you go to the 1950s, like you mentioned, it's certain hours of TV, you will see certain stuff. It will be jokes about this, jokes about that, some kid show, and then at the end of the night, something plays that relates to the country being great. It's super different. Like, you can see anything, and it doesn't even have to be super crazy. You can watch, like, the CW and see something that's
the 100.
over the top. Yes, that's a perfect example. That is about the world, like, 100 years or so in the future after a nuclear holocaust, and people are finally back on Earth, and then there's certain people that survived, and they're like tribal members. People get slaughtered and killed and blown up, massacred.
Her nickname is
the one who kills.
Yeah,
it is like the one who brings death is like the nickname of a character, because she just like goes through and does what she has to do.
People.
Yeah, they will. It's like, all right, well, you guys are cool now. End of the season, you guys are not so cool. We got to do this to survive or that to survive, and allegiances change. And that's something you will not see.
Let me get your take on this then, because all right, it's funny that you point that out. I've noticed that too. Like, okay, TV and, you know, movies or whatever act a certain way towards words and stupid shit like that, but violence is like open season. But the thing is,
that's
because violence and sex sells. I mean, that's always been the case. Like,
but I'm bringing it to, is that an issue where, because recently, and I didn't know we was gonna talk about this topic, but the Texas shooting, I think it was like, you know, over 20 people killed and a lot of people injured. Like, do you think like the violence that is just like, well, America, we're gonna let that through. No cussing though. No cussing.
It's like this weird thing because.
Well, that's an actual event that happened.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying, did the two tie? Like, if we normalize this, is that
Does
the
it
reason
make
why it's
more
normal?
people do it?
Well, I think sex and violence is normalized. I mean, my kids are 3, 5, and 2, and they're asking about death. I don't know if I was asking questions like that, but I don't feel like I was. It's all over the place, and that stuff sells things. And for a market to be able to be like, well, yeah, we let someone cut their neck off, but we didn't say an F-bomb. I think that's the way they kind of sell it is, hey, we talk about this stuff and do this stuff, but we're not, using this word or that word. So,
and that's where it gets to that weird gray area, because you get to a point where you have certain levels of violence or sexual content, and then you get to and this is like a great example where it's like the weirdest thing. Anyone using any fake word to obviously not say the F word is like, well, obviously if you say that, and this is like Louis C.K. did a joke about like people saying the N word. If you say the N word and not the actual word, I know you meant the N word. Like it's gonna be the whole word in my head.
Like, shut your freaking mouth.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, okay, I know you meant to say the F bomb. It's like it doesn't change. I mean, for some people, I guess it does. For me, it's just different. Where it's like, I know what you meant, so what does it matter? Mm-hmm. But I know there are still people where it's like they use a different word, even if in my own head I literally did exactly what they're hiding. And it's just like this weird thing. And like, of course, like you said with kids, we'll hear it in the house before we hear it on TV ever. So it's like, even as a kid, we will still think the same thing. Like, oh, they meant to say this.
Right.
And it's like,
the stupidest thing always to me with like movies and TV back in the day, I just didn't understand, like, as a kid, bleeping out a word. So it's like, okay, this clearly is a word I wasn't supposed to hear. I'm going to spend my lifetime figuring out what it is.
Where like fuck is a bad word, but bastard's okay. Like, you watch a lot of kids movies and stuff. Imbecile, bastard. I remember one time, I was probably 8, maybe 9, and I used the word bastard, and in front of my mom, and my mom flipped out because, her dad and her mom were divorced, and like when she moved out to Kansas City, it was just her and her mom, and it brought an emotional thing to her. So for me, I try not to use that word either, even though that is an okay word to say.
Like, I would hear that word, King of the Hill. Hank Hill would say, like, you bastard. He would say that all the time. Yeah, no. And that's why I thought it was like, because I said that in school one time to like a friend, and it was like nothing to me. And then like 2 other girls were like, ooh, and I was like, is that actually a swear? Because I'm like, that's on
that bastard. That's a character.
Yeah. So like,
I thought it was just like a little step up above like you're stupid or something. Like that's kind of how it was to me.
So really the epiphany is, or the climax of this is either censor it all or don't censor it.
Yeah, it's like this weird gray area.
Yeah,
is it because it's the same with radio? Like you can have someone say like shit after a certain time on the radio,
right?
And I heard that in a song. I was just driving home at night, and I was like, I didn't know that you could do that. And it was like, it's one of the weird rules. It's like after a certain time, you can do that because radio is like so public. And I think like the AMC thing with The Walking Dead, I don't think technically they have to do that because it's not regular. It's not everyone has Channel 50 or, CW, wherever you might be listening. But, everyone will have like this radio station. Not everyone's going to pay to have HBO or AMC. And HBO, obviously, because they show all the movies, that's probably why they don't give a crap when it's their content, because they show every movie.
Well, you pay for that service.
Yeah.
So it's different.
It's like added. And it's like the same thing even with AMC, but it's like
why
that
the
weird...
FCC's created? I mean, is that why? Oh, I want to hear the fuck in Groundhog's Day, so I'm going to purchase HBO or whatever. I'm going to actually purchase the movie instead of, I'll just wait for it to come on cable.
Yeah.
It seemed like that's why they stayed around, because at some point, I don't know why people just didn't say, well, damn, nobody even really watches regular TV.
You can't say that on some web radio stuff. At our school, at U of M, I remember hearing somebody drop an F-bomb when I was in the university center, And then they had to come back on and be like, sorry about that and stuff. And I was like, that's like a web. I mean, I know it's in the school, but it's a college, obviously, and there are kids there sometimes. But it's a college, and it's a web radio show. Like, I'm pretty sure it may have changed.
They had to come back and apologize. Like, oh, sorry guys.
I mean, he just said it after like the break or the song or whatever, and he was like, sorry, I swore or whatever. And I was like, he had to actually say that because of like the FCC, and I guess because it's on a public campus, even though it's a web radio station, because I don't think you can just listen to the radio for the U of M thing. But it was like he had to say that because it's such a public place, and they know kids will be there because kids are always there with their parents. Just that's how it is sometimes. So I think that's why he had to do that. And I thought that was like the weirdest thing, but it's just censorship. It was super weird. But I wanted that to kind of round it out because you mentioned stuff with your kids. So I wanted to bring that as like a final topic because we're at like 1:40 now.
Oh, so, yeah. So. Yeah, guys, that was this episode of A Few Nobodies Talking About Nothing. As you can see, we have no interesting topics. But if you thought anything we talked about was interesting, please email us at instooster@icloud.com. And don't forget to follow me, your boy, The Anarkist, on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram at Anarkist Beats with a Z. And check out some of these beats you might be hearing, these dope-ass beats. And Invisiblekatana, man, where can they get you at?
I am at Invisiblekatana on pretty much everything. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter. You can hit me up there. It's just all one word, no spaces, just at Invisiblekatana.
Yeah, man, and shout out to our listening audience, man. All 10 of y'all, man. Y'all really showed out. Y'all showed out this time. It was really double what I thought we was going to get, man. But, you know what I'm saying? Y'all keep listening. Tell a friend, and we'll see y'all next time, all right? Peace.
Bye.